Stoicism, a 2,000-year-old philosophy, is experiencing a major resurgence in our modern world. But why are Silicon Valley CEOs and NFL quarterbacks suddenly embracing the teachings of ancient Roman emperors and former slaves?
Well, that's certainly an intriguing question. What's driving this renewed interest in such an old school of thought?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Stoicism, at its core, is about cultivating inner strength and focusing on what's within our control. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, these ancient teachings offer a sense of stability and resilience.
So it's like an ancient antidote to modern anxiety?
You could say that. The Stoics believed that true happiness comes from accepting the present moment and not being controlled by our desires or fears. It's about mastering our inner world rather than trying to control everything external.
That sounds great in theory, but how does it work in practice?
Well, one of the key Stoic principles is the dichotomy of control. They teach us to focus our energy on what we can control, our thoughts and actions, and accept the rest with equanimity. So, instead of stressing about traffic or the weather, we focus on our response to these situations.
Oh, I see. So it's not about becoming emotionless robots, but about choosing how we react?
Exactly. As Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoics, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's about questioning our initial reactions and trying to see things objectively.
Speaking of Marcus Aurelius, wasn't he a Roman emperor? How did he find time for philosophy?
That's right. Marcus Aurelius was indeed a Roman emperor, and his personal writings became the book we know as Meditations. It's incredible to think that we have access to the private thoughts of one of the most powerful men in history, reflecting on how to be a better person and leader.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Were there other notable Stoic philosophers?
Oh, absolutely. Along with Marcus Aurelius, the other two most famous Stoics were Seneca and Epictetus. Seneca was a wealthy statesman and playwright, while Epictetus was born a slave and later became a renowned teacher. It's fascinating how these three men from such different backgrounds all found wisdom in Stoic principles.
That's quite a diverse group. What kind of practices did they recommend?
Well, one practice they all seemed to share was journaling. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations were essentially his personal journal. Seneca wrote extensively, including his famous Letters from a Stoic. And while we don't have Epictetus's own writings, his ideas were recorded by his student Arrian.
Journaling, huh? That's something a lot of modern self-help gurus recommend too.
You're right, and it's not just journaling. Many Stoic practices align with modern psychology and self-help concepts. For example, they practice something called negative visualization or premeditation of evils.
That sounds a bit gloomy. What's that about?
It might sound counterintuitive, but it's actually about increasing gratitude and resilience. The idea is to regularly imagine losing the things you value, your job, your home, your loved ones. It serves two purposes. First, it helps you appreciate what you have more deeply, and second, it helps you prepare mentally for setbacks.
So it's like a mental fire drill for life's inevitable curveballs. That's pretty clever.
Exactly, and they also recommended practicing voluntary discomfort, deliberately putting yourself in uncomfortable situations to build resilience, like, taking a cold shower or fasting for a day.
Oh, I've heard of people doing that. So Stoicism is behind those practices?
Well, not entirely. These practices have roots in various philosophical and spiritual traditions, but Stoicism certainly emphasizes them as ways to build mental toughness and self-discipline.
It's fascinating how these ancient ideas are being rediscovered and applied in new ways. Why do you think Stoicism is resonating so much with people today?
I think it's a combination of factors. We live in a world of information overload and constant distraction. Stoicism offers a way to simplify, to cut through the noise and focus on what truly matters. And in uncertain times, it provides a sense of inner stability.
That makes a lot of sense. So, what are the core virtues of Stoicism?
The Stoics identified four cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. Wisdom is about seeing things clearly and making sound judgments. Justice is about fairness and contributing to society. Courage is about doing the right thing even when it's difficult, and self-control is about mastering our desires and emotions.
Those sound like pretty solid principles to live by. But surely there must be some criticisms of Stoicism?
Oh, absolutely. Some argue that it can lead to emotional suppression or a lack of empathy. Others say it's too focused on individual virtue and doesn't address systemic issues. And there's a debate about whether the Stoic ideal of accepting fate can lead to passivity.
Those are valid points. How would you respond to those criticisms?
Well, I think it comes down to interpretation and application. The Stoics weren't advocating for suppressing emotions entirely, but for not letting them control us. And while they emphasized personal responsibility, many Stoics were also active in public life and worked for social change.
So it's about finding a balance and applying these principles thoughtfully?
Exactly. It's about taking the parts of Stoicism that resonate with you and applying them in a way that makes sense for your life. It's not about becoming an unfeeling robot, but about developing resilience and wisdom.
This has been really enlightening. For someone who's intrigued and wants to explore Stoicism further, where would you recommend they start?
There are some great classic texts to start with. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is very accessible and full of practical wisdom. Epictetus's Enchiridion is another good starting point. It's a short handbook of Stoic principles. For more modern takes, The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday is an excellent introduction, and A Guide to the Good Life by William Irvine offers a great overview of Stoic philosophy and how to apply it today.
But I'm guessing the real work is in the practice, right?
You've got it. The Stoics would encourage us to start small, maybe try journaling, practicing negative visualization, or consciously focusing on what we can control. It's about incorporating these ideas into our daily lives and seeing what works for us.
Well, this conversation has definitely given me a lot to think about. Stoicism seems like a philosophy with a lot to offer in our modern world.
I couldn't agree more. From managing our emotions to finding meaning in difficult times, the Stoics offer timeless wisdom for living a more fulfilling and resilient life. And who knows, maybe in embracing these ancient teachings, we'll find new ways to thrive in our fast-paced, ever-changing world.
That's a powerful thought to end on. Thanks for this fascinating discussion on Stoicism.
Thank you for joining me on this exploration. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and maybe try a little Stoic wisdom in your daily life. You might be surprised at the results.